Hello everybody and thanks for watching. I've decided to put out short presentations on some of my research and investigations that I've conducted over the years. I decided to start with this. What does the history tell us? So what were the ancestors living through in the past that was so important that they preserved it the way they best knew how in order for the data to last a very long time? I'm discussing a small number of petroglyphs, pictographs, and artifacts that are different from the rest, unique and difficult to understand what is being expressed, yet important enough for the creators to spend a great deal of time working on what they were trying to memorialize. There are two cultures represented at this rock wall site located in north-central Utah. We have below and to the right the older of the two cultures, Barrier Canyon style. The culture gets its name from several sites located in Utah where a small number of artifacts were located. Not quite sure who or where this culture came from. We like to estimate that they predated the Fremont culture and were around at least 4,000 years ago, which is a conservative estimate. The second culture represented at the site is the better known Fremont culture. They look to have been around between 2,000 and 800 years ago. Still unknown people with an unknown origin. This location is Sego Canyon. More representation of the Barrier Canyon style. This is still located in north-central Utah. Barrier Canyon style was mostly found in Utah with some leakage into western Colorado. The style is famous for their anthropomorphic figures, some of which look to be of creatures that make modern-day man's imagination drift off to an origin that's extraterrestrial, or maybe even interdimensional. Who or what they represent is unknown. As a matter of fact, when discussing petroglyphs and pictographs, only two things are for certain. One, location of the glyph cannot be denied. Second, the glyph itself can be classified or categorized by shape or unknown figure. Everything else from this is purely subjective, unless one was there to ask the artist what was meant by the carving or painting. So some glyphs can quickly be looked at and their subject matter is easily recognizable. This still does not mean we understand what the entire rock art represents or why it was pecked into the rock patina or painted by the indigenous artist, but still, we may at least know what is presented before us. For example, I'm fairly certain this is a representation of a lizard. What kind I do not know. What reason it was carved into the rock is also a mystery. This glyph is from Dinosaur National Monument in Utah. Again, Sego Canyon, Utah. Here we have many glyphs of anthropomorphs. The definition of anthropomorph is giving human characteristics to an unknown or non-human entity. We can all agree that these figures look highly unusual, otherworldly, or other-dimensional, but we may never know the true meaning of the rock art or what exactly they represent. Maybe what was seen was memorialized into one of the longest-lasting mediums known back then and today. This is Barrier Canyon style. A close-up taken at Sego Canyon. I've also added color to make the art easier to see. This is Barrier Canyon style. Now, many anthropologists will tell you that they know bits and pieces of what the petroglyphs and pictographs represent. They will say that they learned this through ethnographic studies. Ethnology compares and analyzes the characteristics of different peoples and the relationships between them. The only problem with this is even today, things from the past compared to the present have very different meaning. Just look at the word bad. Bad in the English language. Bad meant something that was not good. More recently, bad can represent good, like that was badass. So attempting to get information on subject matter that is hundreds of years old, maybe even thousands of years old, may likely be incorrect when asking the Native Americans of today what the meaning was from yesterday, meaning from long ago. Unless the artwork is very recent or the person you are asking was the artist, true meaning will be most likely continued to elude us, including the anthropologist and the archaeologist. But this is not to say that there are possibilities to what the works could mean. We must pull from the environment around where the works are located. We may be able to locate clues based upon geography, ethnology, oral tradition, and even personal experiences. We can research and investigate in depth with circumstantial evidence that may continue to mount upwards, maybe even come across evidence that is equivalent to that smoking gun. This was pecked into a wall at the Green River, just south of Moab, Utah. It sure looks like an elephant. The petroglyph was unfortunately chalked for photography. This, by the way, is now illegal to do, but obviously not when the photo was taken. If this is only several hundred years old, how does this subject matter exist on the rock art that we're looking at right now? Now what about this pictograph? Some anthropologists love to lump anything that looks like this into the shield category, and they hate being told that they're wrong. Without knowing that this is from the Chumash Indians of southern and central California, you would not have even known I was showing you artwork located hundreds of miles away from the prior Utah glyphs. More important is that one must look at all the artwork in this location to get a better understanding of what might be represented here and where someone hundreds of years ago was trying to memorialize something for future posterity. Looking at the full picture will cause your imagination to think something else was seen, maybe even something taking place in the sky hundreds of years ago. These are pictographs using organic materials in their paints that have lasted a very long time. Again, a very old Chumash Indian pictograph. The anthropomorphic figures are flying on a long cigar-shaped object in the sky, interacting with other objects flying around in the sky. Remember, this was hundreds of years ago. Okay, so here we have skyrock petroglyphs near Bishop, California. Stories, historical data abound on this voluminous rock art. The rock is massive. It takes some time to get from one end to the other in any of the cardinal directions. Here we've drawn a line to what looks like the letter E. I wanted to discuss the fact that this symbol is seen on artifacts and ancient artwork throughout the world, not just in rock art found in the desert southwest of the United States. The other arrow is pointing towards a glyph that I can definitely tell you is a square in shape. Other than that, no one knows its true meaning. But by using deductive thinking, looking at other glyphs around it, it looks to be telling a story of something in the sky. The object could also be mistaken for having upward thrust based upon what is occurring at the bottom of the square on both the lower left and the right. Take into consideration that some glyphs around it look to have the potential of representing stars and other out-of-this-world objects. This slide is a photo out of a petroglyph book that was written in the 1960s. The glyphs are from the Colorado River Gorge, Utah. This can no longer be seen because it's been submerged beneath reservoir waters. Thousands of petroglyphs and pictographs have been lost to history because of damming. Many lost forever as they were not fortunate enough to have been recorded for future generations like the one we're looking at. Of interest here are that you can quickly look at what I'm presenting to you in this slide and immediately recognize that the lower glyphs are most likely representing animals in the desert southwest. But what is that anthropomorphic object that they are all surrounding and looking up at? This is Daddy Complex at 9 Mile Canyon. It's one of my favorite petroglyphs to discuss in my presentations. Look at the upper left. The object looks like a landed craft set down on 3 legs. Some type of beam of light is coming out of the craft. Animals and anthropomorphic figures seem drawn to it, intensely focused on what it is doing. Here we have another unknown creature, labeled anthropomorphic. To me, kind of reminds me of a merman. Here we have a portal glyph up towards the top. Below it seems to be a carved out piece of the rock wall. It seems to resemble a doorway. This reminds me of a Marumuru at Lake Titicaca in Peru. A stargate. The location of this is Dry Fork Canyon just outside of Vernal, Utah. again near Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. Good possibility it's from the Fremont culture. During the course of my research and investigation into petroglyphs, pictographs, and ancient artifacts of those that lived before us, I've come across 4 specific glyphs that almost certainly signify a portal, gateway, or passage into the unknown. These are drawings I've rendered of all 4, and I apologize, I'm not good at drawing. It's what you're going to get. I found these portal symbols at several locations throughout the world. The desert Southwest is teeming with them. And just quickly, I plan on releasing a lot of my research on portals. The historical data contains evidence that portals existed in the past. I believe that location, mixed with the need of certain elements and a change in vibration and frequency, must take place for them to form. Locations on the Uintah Basin, specifically the area of and around Skinwalker Ranch, appear to merge all the needed ingredients together, and I will discuss this in the future. Thanks for taking the time out to give the presentation a listen. Take care, and please follow me on YouTube as I begin to place a lot of my past 20 years of research up onto the sites. I will discuss ancient lost cultures, the paranormal, Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, distant past cultures of present-day Mexico, and many other topics, all coming soon. Thanks again.